just a smidge. This way. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Lindsay. This is Jess. We're here every Tuesday night at 7:30 answering questions that are sent in by you guys. And tonight we are we're talking about unusual bits. So last week we talked about 3 bits for aged horses, 3 bits that we recommend for aged show horses. And in that conversation, there was some conversation about crickets. There were some questions about crickets kind of as a follow-up. And there were lots of people who either sent us pictures of their bits or had questions, some further questions about unusual bits. So we thought we would go through, what do we have, 4 of them? We actually have 4. We said we were going to do 3, but we've actually got we've got a few unusual bits here to go through with you. So if you have questions as we go on, you can drop those in the comment box and we'll try to get to them. If we don't get to them while we're live, we'll try to come back and get to them after the fact. If you have a hard time with the audio or with the connection, then when you listen to the replay, it won't skip when it replays. So everything actually does get recorded. Even if the internet connection is poor, everything does get recorded. So if you come back and you listen to the recording after the fact, you will be able to catch everything that we said in here. And if you are not on our email list already, then that's the best way to get the replay delivered right to your inbox on Tuesday mornings ahead of time. That button is on our Facebook page, on the cover page. You can just hit sign up. If you're finding us on Instagram, the link in our bio will take you to our email list, and then you can get that delivered right to you on Tuesdays. Looks like a few people are jumping on. Hi, Patricia. I think I saw Nancy on there. That's awesome. Okay, so we went through what happens if you have a poor connection. If you want to submit a question, if you have a question for us or a topic that you'd like us to cover, you can send those in to us at hayeskofalph@gmail.com. I'll add it to my list. We'll do a whole session centered around your question or topic. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Shout out for tonight was to all the people who jumped on our website afterwards and purchased bits. You guys sold us out again, which was awesome. We're excited for you guys to get those in the mail, or if you've picked them up, if you're on the wait list, I will be in touch with you as soon as I possibly can for those. But thanks for doing that, guys. That was awesome, and we really appreciate you. Okay, bits, you want to pick one of these and show us what it is and tell us about what it's used for? You're going to start with that one?
We'll start with this one.
You have to hold it
I
up.
think before we start, though, we should not call them unusual bits.
Oh, okay.
We don't want to. These
We
are.
don't want to hurt their feelings? What are we calling them then?
They're just not very common bits.
Okay.
So a bunch of these, the ones we have tonight are West Coast, a couple of more Mexican Vaquero type bits. The first one is just an old Fleming, and this one's actually owned by a good friend of ours. Let's see if we can. So the neat part about this bit,
Just a little bit higher, yeah.
that's really unique is for anybody that's not used to these type of bits, they look really weird with the balance bars in them. These are actually really nice for horses. What the balance bar does is, if you think about it, when a regular bit is in a horse's mouth, they only have this bar here in the bars of their mouth, and the bit rotates on that. These balance bars sit where the lips are, and then this is on the bars of their mouth. And with 2 points, they balance better. They're not meant, you can't make them, well, I guess you can make any bit severe, but they're meant as a balancing bit. Now this bit, and it's gonna be really hard to see on this, actually has 2 rollers. So it has one down here, and then it has one in the hooded port. This one here is actually a cricket, but from being used, they get saliva and hay and debris and stuff in that cricket, And it's funny because I can sit here and play with this thing and not get it unhinged, but the second it goes in their mouth and it gets wet, all that stuff will loosen up, and then this one has a really nice cricket. What makes this one...
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. What's the difference between a roller and a cricket?
Roller rolls. Crickets make sounds. What it does...
Can you make the cricket sound so they can hear it? You can't because it's stuck.
Well, it's not stuck, but it's almost stuck. Those ones don't have
These don't have
crickets.
crickets.
Do you want me to grab a cricket?
Yeah, I think
have some
so.
crickets.
Somebody asked about crickets. Do you have one down here?
Yep.
Okay, grab a cricket because
So
I
you
think
talk about...
you want me to sit here and talk about bits. Oh, I got it unstuck. Yeah, because there were some questions. I know Kimberly sent in a question about crickets. She wanted to see them even if they were dirty. So we'll show you some of these. I think I got it unstuck. You don't have to take that off.
Well, the shell you do.
Okay.
So, this is an old spade bit, and as they use that tongue on that cricket, it makes a clicking sound. And it takes a lot to, or a lot of
I hope you guys can hear that. I think they can hear that.
And every time that thing rolls, they play with it with their tongue. And the reason we like them when they're playing with their tongue is if they move their tongue, they unlock their jaw and it stays moving. They're softer.
So why does that have a roller and a cricket?
The horse can figure out where it wants to play with its tongue. It just has more spots on the tongue, more things to play with. So this one's fairly unique. Especially on a East Coast horse. This bit here was likely from the late 60s, early 70s. And
Let me hold it up so that
it has a straight shank on it, which makes it, if you lay them reins out and then snap it up, it's going to be very severe. It's going to come in very quick with not a lot of warning. They're kind of meant to hold up a little bit on. This one has rein chains, which give it a little balance before you put your ramels on them. But this one being so straight up and down, the mouthpiece and the shanks, it's meant to be a very bridled up type bit, a very straight up and down shoulder horse with a really light throat latch. You can't make a heavy horse go up here. They won't move properly, but it'll keep one very up in the bridle if that's what you want. This one here, it's not clean, but you can, and I don't think anybody can really tell if you're not in person, but there's a lot of really neat silver work on that one. This one here, it obviously, definitely just for broke horses. You don't want to just throw anything in these ones. But the ones that go in it that are really upright, really have a neat way of lifting their shoulders up.
So,
not bits
okay.
that I advise for people.
So hold on. So what's this one called? Does this one have a name?
There's so many different names for this bit. It would be amazing because nobody can agree on what they're called.
Okay.
And all the bit people that I've asked, they would say, well, it's this with that, and nobody can come up with a good thing.
And what's it used for?
Straight up and down horses.
Straight up and down meaning what?
Like their heads are naturally very bridled up. The old West Coast stock horses, very upright in the shoulders.
Okay.
Likely more into the show horse classes, like the old Western Riders.
Who makes this bit?
This one is made by a company called Fleming, which was very popular back in the 60s and 70s.
And what would one of these cost? Now, ballpark.
Flemings aren't super expensive. You could likely get that for $600 US. $700 US, I would think. Maybe
That's a
little
lot. That's a lot.
cheaper. It is, but
Anybody have any questions, just let us know. I know he's going kind of fast. So if you have questions, I'll try to ask some questions for you, but if you have questions, just let us know. This one?
this one, I guess
it up
I
so
don't
they
know if you
can
can
see it.
really tell. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever bought. I've never had it on a horse.
This is the most ridiculous thing you've ever bought.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is actually a well-made bit, and it's useless. It has ridiculously long shanks,
To hold it up.
a straight bar mouthpiece, absolutely no give to it anywhere. It's too long to be legal to show in. But I know it doesn't look that interesting, but to me, it's just the most ridiculous thing that anybody could ride in this thing. I have no doubts that you could really mess up some horses in this one.
So.
And somebody
what?
stamped their name on the side of it, and it's supposed to say Doug, and it's not my dad.
They put the D backwards.
And the D's wrong.
Hold on a second. I wonder if I can.
don't
Well, it's
think
all
so.
going to be backwards because I don't have the camera flipped around. I don't know if you guys can see that if I put the light on it. But the D actually is backwards in life. So
And it's
what,
just the
what
most
material
ridiculous
is
thing.
this?
It's just regular blued steel.
It is blued
Back
steel.
then, they made a lot of stuff out of different, like
It's
old
heavy.
railroad ties, steel, and stuff like that.
And why would somebody make this?
I have no
I
idea. I mean, they obviously put it in horses. Some of the old horses or old bits from years ago were so ridiculous because they didn't think of softness as in getting them broke. They just went to different bits. And when you talk about unusual, I just thought this was the most, for that long a shank, that thin of a barrel, it's just the most ridiculous bit.
So
And I like it.
how much does one of those cost?
$20.
$20.
It's worth more for scraps.
So, okay, so hold on. So we never talked about that other one, the other one that we just did. You said you wouldn't suggest people riding that? That one with the super straight shanks
No.
that didn't have really a name?
One of the reasons I wouldn't advise anybody to ride in it is because it's such a fast, when you pull up, there's no signal saying it's coming. There's no here, I'm about to. And these aren't one, now I have rode in that one. The Fleming I have rode in. On very old broke horses to really get them to lift up and really get them to think. But I wouldn't advise 99% of the people to ride in them. They're just, and same with the next two, they're just,
What are you
they're too
calling that
fast.
one that we just had? There's no name for it? Because it's just something made up?
goofy. It's a goofy bit.
Okay.
Now this little bit,
This little bit here.
this one's more, to me, is more interesting than anybody else. It's just a traditional ported bit, Mexican made with really neat silver. I love the silver on the side of this one. I don't know if you can see it in the video thing, but it like scrolls
on it just the
around
right way.
in just really unique ways. This one is more of a unique bit. There's some indentations in the port for, again, that horse to rub his tongue up against. There's some rollers in there.
Oh, Charlie.
This bit, this is actually my dad's like only thing he ever kept forever. And he got this when he was a young guy working for anybody that's around Southwestern or Blenheim area would remember Murray Payne used to have a tack store. And Murray was this really, really neat guy. My dad worked for him when he was quite young. And my dad got this from Murray. Murray got it when he was younger. It's just an old Mexican bit. And the neat part about this bit, and it's not together anymore, is it used to have a double curb strap. So there's a curb strap that come down from here, and it would sit against the underside of their chin instead of into the groove where we normally put a curb strap today. So it had a lot of bite when it came into there. It's not very long. I just think it has, to me, it's really hard to see, but it just has really gorgeous silver on the side. And a lot of the Mexican bits, Some of the silver makers down there just have really cool designs and some very, very talented makers. I just think that's a unique bit, mostly because of where it came from, and Murray was a really cool old guy. The Paynes did a lot for quarter horses for many, many years. And when it comes to crazy bits, I think this one wins the prize. This one, I would definitely not advise anybody to ride in. There's a lot of things going on. It's a
There's
Mexican
a lot going
bit.
on here.
This is one of my purchases to hang on the wall. So to start out, it just has regular, pretty regular shanks, really, if you look at it. The most notable when you look at it is the double curb strap. And this chain here is to keep this chain down on the ball of their chin.
I'm sorry, I have to.
And this is not something I would advise for anybody to ride in. Horses have to be so incredibly broke to handle that, because it's such a fast acting curb strap, and it'll bite them. It definitely makes some things back in. And that's one thing with the old bridle horses and the vaqueros and stuff, is before they put them in those horses were aged horses. They had, been around. And the guys or people riding them horses, the idea was with the Ramel reins and the way they were rode, you never pulled them bits side to side. You just came up on them Ramels, they sat in there, they bridled up, and they were so broke to use these bits. When you see the old paintings of the vaquero horses, and them horses are just, right into their chests, they're very backed off horses. A lot of this stuff was used in those things. The other thing that's really unique about this bit is the mouth piece in here, where it comes down so incredibly hard right in here.
Like this, you mean like how it comes in like this?
Right. And it comes down.
Did you show them this part too?
Nope.
Okay.
So this is going to sit across that bar of that mouth, and then it comes down in between the bar of the mouth and the tongue kind of sits up in here, and that sits in that groove where it comes down from the bar. I put this in a horse's mouth one day just to see how it fit in there, and it was really unique to see how it sat in there. And the other part that was really unique is that when they carried their head this way, that horse was really comfortable. And this one has really nice rollers. They come back far enough, and there's some texture to it, so the horse will play around.
What do you mean they come back far enough?
Well, they come back far enough that the horse can play with it with his tongue. Some of the modern day bits will have it, but they can't get a hold of it. They need to be able to touch that. And then the other thing is this one here has a big, I don't know if you call it gouge or textured out right here. And that horse, the one thing that amazed me when we put this in a horse when I bought it,
If you guys can see that.
was how comfortable, for the first little bit he'd play up here, because none of our bits go down into their, in between their bars like that. And it was really interesting. I watched this horse kind of play with it. He came up here, he came back here, he fidgeted around with it. And then he left his head at a perfect 90-degree angle, and all of a sudden just got really ridiculously comfortable playing with his tongue on it. And I thought that was very unique on these kind of bits, is when they fit the horse's mouth right, how quickly them horses will play into that. Other than that, this bit is just hung on my wall. I just thought it was really unique. And
We didn't say what the purpose of that one was, right?
the last one and this one are kind of the same thing. They're just old, like Mexican vaquero bits, straight up and down
What
type
kind
horses.
of work are they doing in those?
They're riding ranches, working cattle
Okay,
over large acres.
okay.
And the one thing about that style of riding, which is kind of the beginning of like the West Coast cow horses and all that stuff, is it was very very sought after on how to be soft, how to get them horses bridled up. The horsemanship was so important to them in these things. And it's, everybody will argue because they say, well, you know, they're cruel bits, they're big and they're whatever. When they're sat in the mouth properly and they're used properly, it's amazing how the horses will play in there, and if they understand it, they're so nice. And they took pride in taking a few years to make a horse that lasted a really long time, and they were very prized possessions.
What's this one made out of?
Again, it'll just be,
Just be blued steel?
yeah, a lot of that stuff.
What is that on the outside? Like, what's
Silver.
that? It's just a silver inlay?
Yep, silver inlays. So this one has a lot of silver
and then
inlays
is this copper inlay back here?
on the front and back.
On the front and on the back, there's copper inlay.
Has copper inlays. I just thought this was such a unique bit just because
Kinda
of
neat.
the craziness
And these are
involved.
copper.
Those are copper, yeah. One thing about that style of bits was silver, anything to dress them up. They took such pride in their equipment and in their horses, and it really shows when you look at them. When you look at, like, everybody kind of thinks of like Texas as the place for horse stuff. Texas bits around that time were very dull, very cruel, very blunt type bits. When you went into the, because a lot of it was coming from the cavalry going into Texas, like we're talking around, I would bet like 1850, somewhere around there. You're talking about the military coming into Texas. When you're talking to these ones, it's the vaqueros coming up through Mexico and California. And there was just a different style of riding. The Texas was a bit rough, and you know, you grabbed horses and kind of handled them around kind of rough. These ones, horses were very prized. Tack was very prized. So you see a lot of silver, a lot of very intricate details on them.
That one that you just had, we didn't put a price on that one, right?
You can usually buy those.
Where is it? Can you hold it back up for a second? We didn't talk about
These ones here, you know, truthfully, and I have lots of bits that are worth more than these. You can buy these for like $200-300 on any auction site or anything like that. They're just unique and kind of different.
it. And what about this one?
Like people say, I mean, you could buy that pretty much anywhere for, you know, $100 to $200. That one. They're not hugely sought after. I just thought they were unique. You know, they have the grooves back in there for the tongues. They have different styles. I just thought they were unique. I like unique other than unusual. But
Okay.
you want to ride one?
I don't think so.
My entire life, my dad rode one horse in that. That was it. He had an old stud horse. He rigged up the curb straight properly, played around with it, and other than that, it always hung on the wall. I've rode in it maybe 2 or 3 times, and my dad rode in it 1 time. And that was it. And that one, I put it in a horse's mouth once.
I don't have any bits that my parents wrote in and hung on the wall. I have 0.
That was, like I said, that was the only thing my dad ever kept his entire life.
Yeah.
And it stays here, and
Yeah, it's cool.
I just think that one's a lot of,
I think that's another
'cause
thing
I
with
like
bits.
Murray.
Is like people who get into bits collect bits and have, you know, like they have, what's the word I'm looking for?
oh, I think a lot of them come with the stories.
Sentimental value.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I mean, I can remember as a kid at Murray Payne's tack store, and he had a barn behind his tack store, and we'd, you know, like
What's the chicken coop bit? Oh, yeah. That one.
you know, and that's another one. I mean, it's,
Hold it up higher.
so that one's just an old West Coast spade bit. Visalia Saddle Shop sold those bits. You can buy those ones, you know, pretty much anywhere for like 400 US, 400 to 500 US, a little, well, maybe cleaned up, but, and this one here, the same thing, you know, you can find them anywhere. I always like this bit only because, the gentleman that technically owns it says that I own it. I say that he owns it. I was started working for a Peter Van Ert, and I'm cleaning out his chicken coop. And it was in the bottom of his chicken coop. And there's 4 bits in there, whatever there was in the thing. And I hit him with the aluminum shovel, found him. Thank God didn't get him thrown out in the manure pile. And I remember Pete come in and I said, hey, there's some bits of yours. He said, those aren't my bits. I don't like spade bits. I never ride in them. That wouldn't be mine. He says, well, it was in your chicken coop. He says, no, it wasn't. It ain't one of mine. You must have left it there. And I lived with Peter for, God, I think 9 or so years. And every time we played with that bit, he always swore to me. He's like, it's not my bit, it's yours, and yada, yada. And when I left Peter's, which would have been 18, 19 years ago now, I took it off a headstall and I put it back. And he told me not to leave my bit, and we argued about it that day. And he made me a deal that if I ever got rid of it, he would gladly take it back because it was my bit, and I said it was his bit, and that's where it always sat. So technically I say it's Peter's bit, he says it's mine, and
Okay, so we don't know whose it is.
we don't know whose it is.
Okay.
I know it's not mine, he knows it's not his, so we just never figured it out.
Cool.
But and that one there, I've used that one a lot. That one is a really nice feeling bit when you have a horse that's a little scared and you want to gain some trust in him. That spoon, like whenever I talk about spoons, that spoon comes way back. It has the cricket in it, balance bars. That's actually a really lovely bit. Today's standards, maybe not the prettiest on the cheeks and whatever, but a lot of those bits from back then with the spoons and stuff really laid well in the horse's mouths. And there was so many good parts to them. And I mean, I have spades, like modern made spades that look a lot nicer and stuff, but a lot of those bits, where I got them or all that kind of stuff made kind of the bit. I have no idea. I bought that one. I think I might have bought that off like eBay or something. That was just there was 3 or 4 bits in a bundle.
You saw that and you had to have it.
It was my Christmas present to me. Some people have jewelry and fine art, and I have these.
Yep.
There's a lot of...
I don't see any questions. So I'm not saying you're the only person that cares about bits, but...
I have no idea that this...
Thanks for humoring Jess for this Facebook Live tonight. If anybody has any questions, you can ask those now. I don't think I saw too many back here.
There won't be any questions on this. Everybody
Hi,
just watches it and shakes their
Kim.
head.
Hi, Daphne. Hi, Robin.
No, Daphne, your horse never wore one of those bits.
Hi, Anne.
Or Anne, no, it did not.
Yeah. No, really.
Actually, that spade bit actually is a pretty soft, like it's just a really nice feeling bit.
All right. Well, there are some unusual bits. If anybody has anything more unusual than that,
Send me a picture.
yeah.
Send me a picture, and if they're for sale, tell me how much you want for
Oh
them.
my gosh.
This is the best one. This isn't
Last
an advertise
week
to
we
sell
sold
things. This is
bits.
to
This
buy
week We're
things.
buying them back. We're buying a bunch of old bits.
I want to decorate a room with all bits.
Oh my gosh.
So I want unusual. I want the weird, make them
yeah.
more unusual than this. Now we have more unusual things, like
We have more unusual things than this.
I just like these ones. I mean, I just think they're neat. And I think it's neat when you put them in history as far as how they evolved too. Like when you take from medieval times to now, nothing has changed. I mean, obviously they've refined how you weld and how you whatever, but they had what we call a cavalry shank now in medieval times. They started, they had snaffles, they had shank bits and ports, and now, obviously some things changed, but
So hold on a second. Pat saying old boys always said never sell a bit. Karen is saying, I've got a question for you. When you want to try out an unusual bit on a horse, how do you introduce it? Do you let them carry it for a while or just go ahead and ride?
I make sure that I put those ones on the brokest horse I have. So that
So,
I know that they will understand.
Was her
that.
question an unusual one? Yeah, it was, right? Or just a new one? Yeah, we want to try out an unusual bit on a horse, yeah.
Right, so if I want to do, like when I buy one of these and I want to hang it on a horse, I'm not going to put it on a baby who won't understand it. I put them on them old broke show horses. And the other reason I do that too is so that when I ride and I lift up on that, I know that horse enough and I know his responses to different things so that when he lifts up and maybe comes up through the shoulders or comes up through the pole, I know it's because of what something the bit is like the reaction to the bit. And as if I were to put it on a younger horse and it changes and it's, I don't know what it is. I don't know the reactions of the horse. So I do it on the old, and I don't mean broke as in like it's been rode for 20 years. I mean like broke as in like I can, just touch the reins when that thing gives. I can just move my leg. Like I know that they're broke to do the jobs I want.
Glenda said, so a modern, smaller height spoon would be more or less severe.
There's so many different styles of spoons. So a spoon that's well made, that's actually a little higher, isn't as severe as people think. It's not the height. When you talk about a spoon like this one is so swept back, that lays against the top of the horse's mouth. And then what happens is the pull comes from the leverage you can come from here. It's not whacking the horse's mouth. They're holding it here because it lines up with that horse's mouth on the top. So when you pull, it's actually working on the leverage back this way. A lot of smaller spoons. The biggest thing with spoons, they have to be well made. They have to be very contoured back. And then it's how you rig up your curb chains on top. There's a lot to be, I don't even think we could even talk about it over a Facebook thing and understand how that horse's mouth holds a spoon and the type of horses that are designed for it. You have to have one that's built for it.
For a high spoon or for a low spoon, or what are you talking about?
Right. They have to have a certain mouth to fit in there. They have to, I find they really have to have the correct throat latch to where they naturally carry themselves at that 90-degree angle. If they're kind of a big, thick throat latch, kind of fatty necked horse in the throat latch, they're not going to carry it properly. The spoon is always going to be on the top of their mouth, and then they're going to start jigging around with it. It takes a certain horse to carry that type of bit. And that's why you see a lot of the West Coast horses, I don't mean modern day West Coast horses, but from years ago, that were very upright, they could do it.
Glenda's also saying, what about floating spoons?
Floating spoons are meant for a different purpose because by having the floating spoon, you've taken away the leverage effect to it. The spoon in a floating spoon is only to keep a tongue down. It's useless, just something they've come up with lately, or I shouldn't say lately, but you'll see a lot of the kind of a fad lately. It just keeps their tongue down. They've done it with different things over the years.
Anne is saying, maybe too broad a topic, but can you talk a bit about Basels and martingales? How long we got? How long
let's
we
do
got?
that next week.
Oh, and Becky's saying, I feel like you could do the next 10 Tuesdays on learning why bits are shaped the way they are and how to properly use them. Yeah, Becky, do you have any specific questions about bits? Because
I feel like there's not only the shapes, but one thing everybody forgets is what's the shape of your horse's mouth?
But how do you know that?
Well, and that's the problem when you go to a tack store, is if you don't know your horse's mouth, there's a reason I have a bunch of bits, and that's because I ride multiple horses. What works for one doesn't always work for the next one, and usually it comes down to is how is their mouth built. You know, it'd be the same as people. You know, everybody, the basic structure is the same, but I mean, if you get a fat tongue, you know, that affects whether I want it mullened up a little bit. If I got, you know, something with maybe a little bit narrower bars, I need to bring that in just a little bit. It's hard to know your horse's mouth, and you have to experiment a little bit. Certain things you can play with and say, is this working or is it not? Certain things, you know, like there's certain horses that come in here and I look at them right off the bat, I can say, okay, I'm not going to those bits, I'm going to go to these ones. A lot of it is just trial and error and knowing how their mouth is built and how how they react into that. And then also looking back through their body, especially when you start into spades and you know, anything like that, cathedrals, any of that kind of stuff, where you're going to put a definite line where you want that horse's mouth, you have to know that their skeleton can accommodate that, and their muscle tone and how their road can accommodate that. Bigger bits on bad horses do not work. You know, lots of people, I need a bigger bit because my horse is a doorknob. I think that's that one that was welded up. The Doug bit. Doug's not even smart enough to spell his name properly on the bit. You know, bigger bits just make for bigger messes when you mess it up. You know, it's like trying to fix something with your hammer. If you got too big of a hammer for a finishing nail, if you use a sledgehammer, it isn't going to go very well. You got to have the right one. I think the one about hackamores and martingales, that's a whole topic in itself.
So we did something like that at one point, and I can't remember what it was. We've done how to fit a German martingale. I'll have to look back and see if we may have done one. We may have done one about Bosels and martingales that I can't remember.
The ugly bit, it's not ugly, it's unique.
We're not calling anything unusual or ugly, apparently, Becky. Tonight we're calling it unique.
We're being politically correct.
And did you call one a she? Oh no, you said this cute little bit. It's like purses. It's like somebody who's obsessed with their purses. Like, yeah, okay.
And these are just the old ones. I mean, the new ones, you know, like I say, nothing's changed. I mean, we have spade bits that are modern made. Most of the things that are modern made are a little wider through the mouthpiece. Like standard back then was usually a 5-inch, little under 5-inch width. Now, if you're over 5 inches for anything standard today.
Is that because the horses are bigger?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you looked at horses from the 1800s, you know, they weighed 700 pounds. They were scrawny, ugly little things. Saddles, 15-inch was considered a huge saddle back then. Everything's getting bigger. We feed them better. We raise them better. Everybody wants to breed bigger.
We're bigger.
And their mouths got a little bigger too. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to be said for, you know, I mean, we have modern day, all them bits, we have modern day things for them, versions of them. Mm-hmm. I just don't think they're as unique or unusual.
Is there anything else that you
What's the weirdest
say?
bit you know that you...
Obviously your collection of bits. I don't have anything nearly as unique.
I thought it was kind of funny going in that box I have sitting in there going, which one
is the most unusual? What is the most unique?
And
Yeah.
I think the most unusual thing was not even a bit. It was a rig hackamore that I don't even know where I got it from. I've had it forever. There's always unique things.
Send us your questions if you have more questions, and we'll make sure that one gets answered. But if you have questions, make sure you send them in because we will make sure that those get answered for you. Did I miss one there?
I couldn't read it. It's flipped up too quick.
Can you talk about bits that help your horse snaking? I'm having a hard time reading.
From
Can you
your
talk a
horse?
bit about bits that help from your horse snaking? Okay, no, it's not me. It's her. That doesn't make any sense. To help stop your horse from snaking, like
Getting wiggly?
getting wiggly, or like
We can do
Getting
spurs
snaky
one
with
of
their
these
head.
times.
Nancy, we did one on spurs, where we just talked about what we like. We talked about, like basically cheap spurs and what the problems are with them and what the difference is between good spurs. And then
We can do one on how different horses react
we
to
could do one on how different horses react to them. Yeah, and different rowels. We haven't done that. We've just talked about like the width and the rowels, the width and the band, what makes them stay on, what makes the horse have a good response to, basically why quality is important.
We can do one though on different types of rowels, why we put different horses in different kind of rowels.
Yeah, we could do that. Becky says to stop your horse from snaking.
That one would.
Would you like to try this one, Becky?
Joking aside, some of those bits, when you just hold them in Ramels, or even just hold them in regular reins too, but you just hold still and you let that horse figure it out, it's amazing how it's so much better than somebody trying to manipulate them. And I think that's the thing that's misunderstood with some of those extreme bits, and I think that one classifies as one of those, is that in the right hands, when you just sit your hand there and you let them figure out where that sweet spot is, it's amazing how they learn from those. And I think that was the idea of the tradition back then, is you had them through the snaffle, the hack 'em, or you brought them up through a two-rein idea. And by that point, they were so broke that you could just, you'd hold them Ramels up that little bit and then steer them through there. You didn't have to manipulate them. And that horse would stay very straight and understand his job. And I think, and even on today's bits, there are some where I will tell customers to just sit your hand right here and let that horse figure it out, and that is why.
Just hold still and let the bit do the work.
Yeah, let them figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Maybe we can try that one on that.
Okay.
Do you want to ride your 3-year-old nuts?
I don't want to ride my 3-year-old on that. No.
Either do I, just to
No.
put that out there. And I like them, but I don't want to try it.
No, I don't think that needs to happen yet.
Nope.
No. Okay, thanks for being here with us tonight, you guys. And again, thanks for heading over to our shop last week and buying a bunch of bits. Daphne's asking, what do you use to clean your bits? Obviously nothing. They're all filthy.
Oddly enough, these ones, like these real old ones and stuff, are worth more when they're not cleaned. I have one bit in at Tom Howe. He's fixing some silver on an old one where the silver has come out. We have really bad sulfur here. Had a Balding over at Balding's a year or two ago. Same thing, the silver was coming off. The sulfur will push the silver out and it's horrible. But they're actually worth more if you leave them be. You can soak them in some solvents. The newer bits that we want to clean up, if they're blued steel, what we actually do is you just take a cotton glove, spray it with WD-40.
We should do that as a live. We should do that.
And you just rub it.
Yeah, how to clean them.
And then you just put some olive oil or whatever on the mouthpieces, and you just do the same thing.
Vegetable oil.
And you just gently rub it, but you stay away from a lot of the other stuff. There's some stuff for silver that's awful good. What's that stuff?
Haggerty's.
Haggerty's, and
light.
toothpaste works well.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is you don't want anything, like a lot of silver cleaners are abrasive. And like a lot of the big auctions that sell some of these bits, and there's some of them old spade bits and California style bits, they sell for thousands of dollars easy. And on those websites, you'll see right on there, has not been cleaned. You know, if they buy them out of estates, they want them dirty. Now, if you're showing with them, you can clean them, but those are different things. These ones here, well, they still got hay and saliva on them, and that's the way to keep them. It's not that I'm lazy.
I didn't.
Doing that properly.
Yeah, I didn't say that. Okay, thanks for being here with us tonight, you guys, and asking your questions. If you have more questions, send them in to us. I think it'll be neat to have kind of a collection of these sessions all about bits. Seems like you guys have a lot of questions about those, and I think there are a lot of questions to be answered about bits. Kim was here today, and we were talking about how it's interesting because there's so many different ones, and it's just neat to learn all the different uses and purposes. And we got a history lesson tonight from you. For anybody that ordered feeders, anybody that ordered the Pro Panel stall grazer feeders, the corner feeders, we will have an order at the middle of April. If you're on my list, then I have however many you wanted set aside for you. If you are not on my list and you would like one or some set aside for you, let me know, because we are limited right now as to how many we can get up. And I would hate for them to come and go before you get your name on that list. Like I said, if you have questions that you would like for us to answer, send them in to us at hayeskofellph@gmail.com. We'll add it to our list. We'll do a whole session about your question.
And if you have any old bits that you
If
want
you
to
have any
sell,
old-
you let me know.
If you have any old bits, send us a picture.
Send them directly to me, though.
Send them. Yeah, I don't want them. Okay. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for being here tonight.